Well, hey, if you clicked on this video because you are looking for some health and fit body tips and you want to learn how to create a lifestyle of sustainable diet and exercise, then guess what? You are in the right place. Because today for Transform Your Mind Thursday, I am having my wonderful coach and husband and trainer, all that good stuff, on my channel to talk about these things. So if this interests you, go ahead and stick around. It's coming your way right now. Well, hey y'all, welcome back to my channel if you've been here for a bit. If you are new, I am super pumped that you are here today, no pun intended. My name is Lauren and my channel is all about making beauty easy for the girl who thinks that she can't, both internally and externally. My hope today is that you will consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so that you can get alerts every single time I upload new videos, which is every single Friday, every third Thursday, and every fourth Tuesday of the month. I am pumped because I have my husband Lance here, and if you're a follower of my channel, you'll know that he's been on my channel a few times. He's done my makeup, and then, yeah, that was a good one. I'll link these videos for you, by the way, in the eye if you want to go back and see them. You've done a voiceover for me, and is that?
And you've done my makeup.
And I've done your makeup. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot about that. You have to go check out me doing his makeup when I got to 1,000 subscribers. It was a big thing. It was a blast. So we've got, those, and everyone was always like, Lauren, please have him back on. Well, I could not think of a better topic to have Lance on my channel than Transform Your Body Thursday, because man, Lance, we've been in the fitness industry for a long time, owning a personal training studio for 10 years. You were in fitness long before that. Lance just knows a lot, and even though I'm gonna sound biased here, there's not one other soul that I would trust on this planet with my fitness than you, because of the knowledge, the compassion, the care, and if you, we have a cat meowing in the background, just ignore her. If you saw my last video, which I'll link for you as well, my whole transformation story, Lance is a huge reason that I'm in the shape that I am in, and it's not because he was hard on me or because he made me feel these horrible ways and needed to get my life together or was this mean trainer. It was actually the complete opposite, that he told me and taught me and showed me how this could be a sustainable lifestyle. So because of that video, y'all asked so many amazing questions that I thought, okay, we really need to address the sustainability here when it comes to diet and exercise. I feel like this is where a lot of people get lost in the weeds, and I think that you could really help some people, my viewers here, just kind of nail down some things that might make their life a little simpler and not make this feel so, gosh, difficult and impossible, because that's for me how it felt. Lance has been in the fitness industry for a long time, like I mentioned. He's trained over 1,000 people. Gosh, you've been working out for what, 18 plus years now?
Yeah, almost 20, and I've been in the fitness industry for 14, and had more than 1,000 transformations at this point.
Yeah, so it's incredibly amazing. And one of the things that I think is so cool, and again, call me biased if you want to in the comments, but I don't care. The thing that we always hear, or that I've always noticed even when we were running our business, is the people that worked with Lance just could not get over his knowledge. He is just a walking wealth of knowledge, and of course his compassion and his understanding that came from, hey, this is my story and here's all my fears, and here are all these things that I really need help to overcome, because sometimes diet and exercise aren't the biggest components.
No, I think that unfortunately in the fitness industry with trainers and coaches, one of the biggest things that lack is emotional intelligence and compassion and empathy from trainers. And so what happens is you get this like very hard-nosed, you're either all in or all out, committed to the gills, or you're not. And I think that it just creates this all or nothing environment that people are just like, well, crap, I'm not all anything. I'm trying to dabble with this, and you're telling me that this isn't appropriate. So I think that people just back off. And I think that that's been one of the, the biggest assets for, for my businesses, is specifically having that, that understanding and compassion that, no, we're going to work with your lifestyle. Otherwise, you can't sustain this. It means nothing how rigid or whatever my diet or workout program is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love that you always talk about in our coaching group with your clients is it's not pass or fail. And so many people, I think they really feel, I know I did, I felt like it was like, well, I had to do this and I had to do that. And the second that something of that didn't work out, it was failure, complete and utter failure.
Yeah, I think that that's the thing is, unfortunately, people, whenever there is an expectation which is going to be built on preconceived notions that it's all or nothing, it's pass or fail, if you're gonna do this thing, then you've got to get in shape just to get ready to get in shape, and you've got to do this thing 5 or 6 days a week and make all your food in Tupperware and make sure that you're bringing your lunch everywhere. And immediately, God, man, that lifestyle in and of itself is a turnoff to us. And so
we did it for years.
We did, and the thing of it is like, so if that's the preconceived notion that most of you guys have when you're starting, well, no wonder you haven't stuck with it or gotten started. You don't lack motivation. You have this preconceived notion that you've got to do something, or that the bar is set higher than what you can imagine. Yeah, it's not going to be an environment for people to get in and start or even want to. I wouldn't want to live that way.
No, not at all. And that's the thing. I see that so much. And so when I put out this video last month and shared my transformation story, that was really where the flood of comments and questions came from on social media, on YouTube, was all about exercise, nutrition, and motivation.
Yeah.
So today, what I wanted to do, Lance, was address this with you, because I want them to hear it from a coach, a different perspective than probably what they've heard. Like even some of the comments that women had given me about the trainers had said literally broke my heart. And I wanted them to hear a different perspective, to see that, whoa, there's something very different about how they approach fitness and make it a lifestyle. So let's actually start with nutrition. And guys, I got my laptop, y'all know this by now. I want to give you a couple of comments that I received, and then I got a question to kind of tie those comments together for you on nutrition.
Cool.
So the first comment was, I would really love to learn how to balance my diet, to eat the things I love and to not feel guilty. I totally relate to that. The second one was, Lauren, I love everything about this video. A lot of the things you talked about sound almost identical to me. The only main difference is that I have 4 kids. I am also short and am currently close to the 130 mark, which for me is so uncomfortable. Okay. Also, like you, I can't go full into something, and I feel so deprived not having something sweet. I'm really interested in hearing more about what you do and how you live so flexibly. A lot of the ladies on my channel have kids, and I know they feel super overwhelmed cooking food for their kids and their family. And then the last one was, I would really love to learn how to eat to live and not live to eat, but still have balance and enjoy food. Okay. So really the question kind of boils down to this. What would you say to someone who is struggling and wants to be in better shape but does not want to feel deprived?
Yeah, so the thing of it is there's a couple different things that I'm hearing there. Is number one is that, these people, these individuals, and if you wrote that, hey, I completely relate. So you're wanting to be in shape, but the reality is that, chances are you probably dieted before, and you know that there's a certain rigidness that happens and occurs with most nutrition and diets. And yeah, while they might work because you're going to create a deficit of calories, which will cause you to burn body fat and lose weight, unfortunately, the lifestyle in and of itself feels like it's not manageable or like it's not sustainable long term. And I know that that's something that we've both dealt with ourselves. So the problem is more so the fact of you don't need to learn some sort of diet or some sort of, this cure-all. What it really comes down to is understanding that the very first thing that will cause you to lose weight is actually knowing the right amount of calories that you need for your body, for your activity level, so that you can burn enough body fat throughout the day. And unfortunately, people put emphasis on all of these things that really don't really matter unless you get this first part, what I call the fundamentals of nutrition. And until you get this first part, the rest of it is all irrelevant. So what happens is people exhaust themselves trying to determine, what they need to do. So they stop eating before a certain time of night. They're intermittent fasting. They're giving up carbs. They're trying to figure out if they need to give up all diet sodas and anything that's sugar related. And then they think that they need to give up breads and all of these things. And so what happens is that it's such a tall order that you end up feeling deprived or so unmotivated, because everything that we do whenever we make a decision is going to be based on the moving closer to pleasure or further away from pain. And so pain or pleasure are the two driving forces that help us to make decisions. And when you see all of these things, giving up these type of foods and regulating it and modifying all of your behavior, what you think of as normal life, of course, the very first thing that's going to come to you, whether on a conscious or subconscious level, is this is painful.
Yeah.
This is so outside of what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And now this means meal prepping where I wasn't doing that before. It means giving up things. It means saying goodbye to social events.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It means giving up foods that actually taste good. And it means saying hello to foods that are bland, dry. And while I get to do this and eat this crappy food, I get to watch so-and-so eating their food that I'm envious of.
Yeah.
And so you're creating this hostile environment in which it feels like you just can't sustain forever. And the reality is that it's nearly impossible. And where all this comes and drives people to be able to stick with these programs, in my opinion, the ones who stick with very clean or depriving sort of relationships with food, they have such a huge emotional why that they're able to stick with this long term. So they're doing things that appear disciplined because their why is so strong. But for the rest of us, our why is that we want to look better, feel better, etc. But we don't want to have this crazy rigid lifestyle. We don't want to trade one bad thing for another bad thing. And so the real advice here is, number one, is to understand or to know a little bit about what your caloric expenditure is. And simply put, that's your basal metabolic rate, or what you burn at rest, also known as your resting metabolic rate, added on with your daily activity. And this number combined, which is called your total energy expenditure, when you eat that amount of calories, that is your maintenance, meaning that if you did nothing and you ate this many calories, you will be able to maintain your body weight. Eat anything less than this. I don't care if it's ho-hos, Twinkies, and ding-dongs. Anything less than those calories will cause weight loss unless there's metabolic damage, which we'll talk about in another time. And the reality is that...
Can I stop you there? Is this why, because honestly, you know this, and I won't go into any of the fad diets and why we don't agree with them, but this is why diets like keto are popular, because it's a calorie deficit. This is why like clean eating and paleo are popular, because I think a lot of people think that there's some magical thing to those plans, and I don't think that they realize it's like, well, you were once eating 2,000 calories and now you're eating 1,500.
Yeah. So that's the whole issue, is that, again, if I eliminate carbs from a client of mine, and they were eating 2,500 calories a day with carbs, and I figured out that they needed 1,700 calories to maintain, or to, let's say, to lose weight, and then all of a sudden I take out carbs, now they're left with eating, fatty foods that have protein in it. But let me tell you something, we've wiped out a third of the normal calories that we take in, and fats and proteins can make you feel fuller. So what happens is yes, it feels depriving at first, etc. But all of a sudden we get this euphoria because we're losing weight, because now we're at like 1,000 calorie deficit each day. And we're still getting to eat foods like bacon and steak and so on and so forth. Now the problem is that it's not sustainable long term, because most people eventually feel like, at the end of this, I get to have some carbs again, or eventually I'll do carbs. And the problem is that you're not only reintroducing carbs, which there's nothing magical about, you're reintroducing an extra 800 to 1,000 calories right off the bat.
Right.
So people think, oh, I started eating carbs again and I ballooned up. No, you started eating or increasing your calories by 1,000 a day, and no longer is this a deficit. So you started gaining. You were at a surplus and no longer a deficit.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to explain that. I think it's so important, especially with all the fad diets. Every few years there's one that just like goes nuts. And so
and so the thing of it is as long as you're eating the right amount of calories, which I've got some resources she'll tell you about, which will kind of help you to determine those things. But the very first thing is knowing how many calories you need a day to be at a healthy deficit. A lot of diets will put you on like a 1,200 calorie expenditure or intake, which, yes, you're going to lose weight, but it's also going to cause metabolic adaptation and damage, which again is something down the road. But the reality is that this is what people do. They go at either too deep of a deficit, which feels too depriving and damages your metabolism, and then people binge and they fall off. So the real key is, of your calories, you should be aiming for about 80% of those calories to be your cleaner foods, your non-processed things. Anywhere from 75 to 80% is good. The other 20 to 25% should be foods that are more of your fun foods, your things like French fries or a little bit of ice cream. And it doesn't mean you go crazy. It just means by keeping those things in there and allowing you to still hit your necessary calories, you're going to not only lose weight, but you're getting foods that normally wouldn't be on a diet, and it's keeping you from feeling deprived or from daydreaming about food at the end of the week, or falling off and binging and things like that, because you're getting to sample those things on a regular basis. And when you add up how much for people who take cheat meals or cheat days, where there's no tracking. If you add up how much you take in,
we've done it,
you know, on a day or in a meal like that, it usually is substantially more than what I give my clients by letting them have, you know, some of these sweets or fun foods every single day of the week.
Yeah.
And so you can lose weight and still have flexibility and still enjoy the foods that you're eating. So no longer is it a, no, I can't have that on my diet. It's simply like, I can have that, but about this much or whatever. So you're learning through doing this that you can have things in moderation, but there's never a no for you.
Yes, and that's why a lot of you ask, Lauren, how in the world are you able to eat a candy bar every day? That's how. So thank you so much for answering that and for honestly giving them so much to think about with that. Nutrition is such a huge thing. So question 2 kind of revolves around sustainable exercise. This is another one. Again, Lance, I have a lot of moms that are on my channel. They're busy. So some of the questions that, or the comments that I got was, I would love to learn how to make the most of the small window of gym time I get every day while I balance work and my kids. And then the second one was, I'm so tired and exhausted from working, taking care of my kids and my family that I just don't have any energy to work out for an hour.
Gotcha.
So what would you say to someone who wants to start working out but feels overwhelmed in their current lifestyle?
Good questions. So yeah, this is another really hardcore myth and misnomer that comes out of a lot of, unfortunately, fitness experts, trainers, coaches, etc. There is this belief, or at least something that's preached, and I don't know whether the motivation is to sell more sessions or if it's just simply the fact that because a lot of us trainers, we work out 5 to 6 days a week, that maybe some of the trainers believe that that's the way to do this. The reality is that it couldn't be further from the truth. As you know, you've seen a lot of the transformations that I've worked with. And of course, I mean, you work out for 30 minutes a day at the max. You know, and that's it.
30 to 35.
So the reality is that it does not take that. What it takes, again, is, you know, when your nutrition is spot on, and I don't mean perfect. What I mean is that you're taking in and consuming the right amount of calories. So you're not taking in a massive deficit, and you're also not going over your calories, what's needed. That alone is going to cause your metabolism to begin speeding up, and it's going to create less of that overflow. Overflow creates spillage and spillover, which, you know, causes increase in body fat. And then when you factor in the fact that when you're doing resistance training and you're doing cardio blended in with that, you create something, not only do you burn a lot of calories, but you create something called the afterburn effect, which means that you're going to burn an additional amount of calories. So your metabolism speeds up or elevates even at rest for the next 24 to 30 hours. We don't know exactly how long that lasts, but we do know that it's somewhere between the time. And it simply means that we can compound your metabolism or the amount of calories. So you're not just burning what you burn in a workout. So what I want to do is give a couple of different tips so that you guys know specifically, not necessarily how to design your own workouts. There's everything that teaches how to do that. That's not the problem. Otherwise, everybody would already be doing their own workouts. The key here is to know a couple different things. I'm a huge advocate, as you know, of doing interval style training. It's where you're blending doing aerobic with anaerobic exercise, meaning that you're doing resistance and cardio exercises blended in one. Doing intervals, I'm not going to go into everything on why it burns so much by doing interval style training, but it allows your heart rate to come up really high and then go back down to moderate. It allows you to push at a higher caloric expenditure.
It also takes less time, and I think it's so important to say that.
It does.
Because that's why I wanted to give up lifting and then doing cardio for 30 minutes behind that. I got so tired of that. So you were like, okay.
So what a lot of people do is they will spend 45 minutes to 60 minutes on using machines or using resistance training, and then because again, yes, you can burn calories, but it's not a ton. And it takes a long time, and you still need to do something that's going to activate your cardio. So people then spend about 25 to 30 minutes on cardio. When you factor all this in, it turns into about 90 minutes. And when you're trying to do this 5 or 6 days a week, now you've got a lot of time in the gym. So the reality is that when you're doing interval style training, if your intensity is up high enough and you're doing this the right way, you can literally burn nearly twice the amount of fat in half the time. And so a couple of keys to keep in mind is, number one, full body workouts are going to be the most effective for burning the most calories. Number two, hitting legs as often as possible, which is where you do want to hit your full body. Number three is going to be focusing on using compound movements and compound exercises. So isolating exercises are where you're going to be focusing on using one single joint. So like a tricep push down. A compound is going to be where you're doing like a push-up, something that affects multiple joints and multiple muscle groups. So that's the first thing. And then a compound exercise is where you're gonna have two exercises combined together to actually burn twice as many calories. So instead of a squat, now we're doing a squat with a row, or a squat with a curl, or a lunge with a curl, or a V-sit with a curl, something like that. Now we're burning way more because we're incorporating more, number one, more caloric expenditure, number two, more larger muscle groups. And then again, you know, the final thing is to make sure that you're staying active throughout the whole time. But when you're doing this, and you're doing this in an order, the right sequence, you're gonna burn twice as many calories. And so you really don't need to be any more than 30 minutes a day. And the final thing is that most of my clients exercise 3 to 4 times a week. So they're really only putting in 90 to 120 minutes
out of the whole week.
Out of the week,
yeah,
where most people are putting in an hour a day.
Or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
And I've got, you know, one of my most successful clients lost more than 115 pounds and was only doing that 3 times a week for 30 minutes a day because the nutrition and everything,
So
it was
awesome.
a balanced lifestyle.
And that, y'all, is sustainable. Like that, you go, okay, I can do this, you know? And hey, here's the thing. I mentioned this in one of the comments on the last video, but if you can't start out with 4 times a week, that's okay. Start out with 3. If you can't do 3, start with 2 and build upon that. It's okay. Starting is better than not starting at all or writing it off completely. Yep. So thank you for explaining that. That was like, for me, those changes that we made a few years ago when we started doing interval training, it made all the difference in the world. And honestly, I feel better. I feel like I look better. I like the fact that I'm in and out of the gym and all of that. Absolutely. So it makes a huge difference. Okay, so the final question, Lance, has to do with motivation. I got a lot of comments on the fact that people just were like, how did you finally make the shift? And, you know, I struggled there. And so I wanted you to give them a little bit of your psychology piece on why it's so important to really make the connection. So here's some of the things that I got. How did you get motivated to actually make the change? So that was like, how did you finally do this? I told them that I yo-yoed for years.
Right.
2, I failed before, and now I don't have the motivation to even try again because they feel like a failure. Yep. And this one just burned me alive. And I want to say that I sure hope that this does not come from any other trainers or anyone else's experiences, but Miss Anna told me that her last trainer said, my last trainer told me if I couldn't commit to 6 days a week, I was wasting his time. I was heartbroken and offended. I don't have that kind of time. Currently, I'm a wife, mom, and a full-time student. So my question for you, Lance, is what would you say to someone who wants to work out but can't find the motivation or the discipline that it takes to do so?
Yeah, wow. Unfortunately, there's, you know, just because somebody, you know, has a badge or a label of trainer doesn't mean that they always have your best interests, number one, and number two, it also doesn't mean that they're going to be the most educated people. Yeah. They might understand exercise physiology or nutrition, but it doesn't mean that they understand the psychology of success or building habits.
Right.
Or understanding empathy or lifestyle. And that's where, unfortunately, most people, I don't think that I've ever worked with somebody who didn't have a trainer at some point that didn't have at least one negative experience. And unfortunately, that's the way that it goes. And I now, at the same token, I've worked with a lot of clients who have had great experiences.
Sure, yeah.
And those, you know, those trainers, you know, I wish that we could, you know, kind of call each of those out. But so the real key here is that there is this big misnomer. Number one is that it takes this massive all or nothing commitment. Number two, that it takes discipline. And I just did a video recently specifically on discipline because this is something that is growing so popular within, various social media accounts, different gurus, etc., talking about, you know, your daily grind and, you know, hustle and grind and discipline, and it takes all these rigid things, and all that does to me is discourage me. Yeah. And if I'm in a place that I'm struggling to adapt or adopt this new habit or lifestyle, and somebody tells me that I just gotta get with it and find discipline, that's so discouraging, because then the very first notion is that I need something I don't possess, or I must learn something to adopt to even get on the right path that's going to lead to the thing that I desire the most.
Yes.
And if I'm in a place where I'm depressed, or if I'm feeling low about myself, or my self-confidence is waning, and somebody now tells me, like, I'm trying to talk myself into these new habits, which I'm scared about, and somebody tells me that I just gotta commit and I've gotta get disciplined, what they just did was, they just told me that I don't have what it takes, or that I need to find something or accrue something before I can even begin to get on that path.
So
and it's so
thing
discouraging.
To meet, basically.
That's it. And so what that does is this creates this perfectionistic ideal, in which case I must be better before I can even get on the path to be better. And so the very first thing that I want to say to you guys is that it does not require discipline to get in shape or to be successful of any kind. Now, before you, send, comments or, at one of us, specifically because of this, I want to explain, it doesn't mean that you won't have habits or actions that appear to outsiders as discipline.
Right.
I've been working out for 20 years, and the things that I do, I usually will work out 5 to 6 days a week, and that can appear to an outsider as very, very disciplined. But understand that I am not a disciplined person. What allows me to stick with this for this long is the fact that my motivation, my underlying motivation as it's called, or my big why, is deeply connected to my emotions, and I know the cost of inactivity or inaction versus the payout or the payoff of what my actions bring me. And this comes down to that pain or pleasure again that we talked about at the beginning of the video.
Right.
And so this here is where Tony Robbins even says that it's not that people are lazy or lack discipline or motivation, it's that we just simply have impotent goals, or goals that simply don't motivate or inspire us to take action and to keep action. And so the real tool here, the real key, is to determine, number one, what it is that you want. Get very, very clear on what it is.
Yeah.
If you don't know what it is, your desired outcome, you're not going to reach it. Okay. The second thing is that you must get in touch with why. Your goal is what you want, your why is why you want it, or why it becomes a must for you instead of just a should. If this is something that you like the idea of doing and feel like you should do it, but it's not attached to the pain of staying where you're at versus the pleasure or payoff of getting where you want to go, you're never going to have the motivation or the tenacity to take that action. And the reality is simply that you don't lack discipline. It's simply that you need to get more clear or dive in deeper, and sometimes this is painful, but to get connected to what your underlying motivation is. All of us have a why. I started off my why, and I know you heard Lauren's why. I started off my why because I felt like I was very skinny, felt frail, fragile, whatever, weak and insignificant as I was growing up, and being more of an academic who wasn't athletic and sport-like. That was something that weighed on me. And after a point of time, I hit my point in which I decided that this would be an area that I wanted to make a change, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. So within a short amount of time of me making changes, which was only working out 3 times a week and very slightly modifying my nutrition, I started noticing decreasing body fat and increasing confidence and muscle. And that showed me the difference, and the transformation wasn't just physical. And so it didn't take discipline to get me there. I was highly motivated because I was desperate to leave this sensation that I had, and I was so desperate for the payoff that I attributed or associated with when I had a physical transformation.
Wow, that is so good. I hope if you need to, rewind that and rewatch that, because that, if you can grasp that, y'all, you can do anything. So Lance, oh my goodness, this has been so great today. I would love to know from you guys in the comments if you love this. Let me know, please, please, please. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting about these things. Lance is going to come back for part 2 of this series next month, and we'll be talking about setting realistic goals. One of the things that you need to know, though, is Lance actually has put together a quiz, and this quiz is going to help you find out the #1 strategy for weight loss for you based upon your current lifestyle and body type, and I have linked that down for you in the description box below, so go check that out. And of course, I'll run his social media on here so you can follow him. He constantly puts out videos, and he's always doing things to give value away outside of his coaching program, because he seriously just wants you to succeed. Hopefully you picked that up today from the video. So Lance, oh my gosh, thank you again so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah, I mean, this coming from a trainer, I just feel like it's so important for people to hear a different perspective than constantly what's pushed out there. Yeah. So, okay, so if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, I'm gonna ask that you do that now so that you don't miss out on any future videos. And of course, connect with me on social media. It is one of my favorite platforms to get to know you better on. I have a private Facebook group called Reformed Tomboy Beauty, and this is a group of girls that get together and we share bad eyebrow memes. We talk makeup, we talk fitness now, we talk beauty, everything in between. And once a month, I have a show called Contour and Converse where I create a makeup look in real time with you. And if that's something that sounds like you want to be a part of, join it. I'll link that down in the description box for you too. And until then, I think we'll go ahead and close out this video. So #Reformed Tomboy family. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.